Jill, are you ready? All right, I'd like to call to order the Thursday, March 19th, 2020, Watertown Board of Adjustments. Roll call, please.
Culhane.
Here.
Oletsky.
Present.
Stein.
Here.
Hanson.
Here.
Dargits Johnson.
Here.
Kays, Dolly, Ford, and Brink are absent.
No, I'm online.
Oh, Kays is
Yep.
online. I'm sorry. Yes, he's here.
Is Blake online too?
Is
or-
Blake online too?
Yep, I'm here.
Yes.
Okay, so
So
Blake,
Blake
Dolly,
and
Todd Kays are also present.
correct.
All right. Well, for those of you watching, those of you that are here, those that are upstairs, kind of trying to do things on the fly here as impacted by most segments of society. We're kind of spread out here in the audience and, on the board up here, and we have people upstairs, so we're trying to shift people through. Please bear with us as we try to make the best of odd situation. We have two board members also participating, but they're online. So with that said, I'd like an approval of the minutes from last meeting.
We'd defer these minutes to a future meeting. They were
Okay.
not sent out.
Okay. Then I'd also make the announcement that for the open public comment section of the meeting, if you would like to speak of any item that's not on the agenda, please let Jill know, and we'll bring you up toward the end of the meeting. Any other announcements, Jill, or should we get started? All right, let's go ahead and get started. The first item is number 20056.
The applicant is Jesse Craig for Parkside Place LLC. The approximate property address for the property is 14 2nd Street Northeast. Current owners are GT Brothers LLC. The applicant seeks approval to develop a 4-story building in the C1 Community Commercial and Downtown Overlay Districts to be utilized as apartments over main floor parking and commercial uses, including alcoholic beverage sales. This is pursuant to various permitted uses in the C1 zone and also specifically conditional use for apartments over 4 units using the upper floors of commercial buildings and bar or tavern. This all needs to be contingent upon compliance with the chapters and sections for the purpose and intent of the C1 Community Commercial District and Downtown Overlay District, 2.0102 location, and 21.02 2B7A through H, specific rules governing individual conditional uses. Staff finds that apartments over 4 units using the upper floors of commercial buildings and bar or tavern are listed conditional uses for the C1 district, and that bar or tavern per definition is any establishment, including restaurants and gambling establishments, licensed to sell alcoholic beverages for consumption upon the premises where sold or provided. The term bar or tavern shall also include establishments licensed to sell alcoholic beverages for consumption off the premises where sold. This is a proposed redevelopment project in downtown Watertown. The applicant submitted floor plans and a written request which reflect or do not reflect the following requirements of the ordinance. Section 210202 2B7A through H, that is specific rules governing individual conditional uses, which includes ingress, egress, off-street parking and loading, screening, buffering, signage, exterior lighting, required yards and open space, and general compatibility with the rest of the district. The purpose of the C1 district is to provide retail and service uses that serve the whole community and supply a wide range of goods and services required by the primary marketable population, and to permit development of community retail centers of a size and in the locations shown in the comprehensive land use plan. This application also needs to meet the purpose and intent of the downtown overlay district. That is to promote development of a compact pedestrian-oriented downtown consisting of high-intensity employment center, vibrant and dynamic mixed-use area, and residential living environments that provide a broad range of housing types for an array of housing needs. Number 2, promote a diverse mix of residential, business, commercial, office, institutional, educational, cultural, and entertainment activities for workers, visitors, and residents. Number 3, encourage pedestrian-oriented development within walking distance. Number 4, create a place that represents a unique, attractive, and memorable destination for visitors and residents. And number 5, enhance the community's character through the promotion of high-quality urban design and historic preservation. The C1 zone is exempt for parking regulations. This particular proposal has parking that is in the enclosed footprint of the building, and also the C1 zone is exempt for the landscape and lighting standards for such things as green space on the boulevard. A replat or DLA, development lot agreement, will be required for development. Now this board must determine if satisfactory provision and arrangement has been made concerning 210202 2B7A through H and the other chapters and sections I just mentioned. If generally endorsed, conditions of approval must be specified as a building permit may be issued upon compliant application without return to this board.
What? All right. This is where the County Fair Banquet Hall is now, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so the idea is to tear that down and put up this apartment. All righty. Anything else to add on that before we ask anybody to come up? Is anyone here that would like to speak on behalf or against this conditional use permit? Please come to the microphone, state your name. Or portable mic.
I'm Jesse Craig. I'm the builder. It actually is a mixed use, so it'll be apartments above and then some commercial on the street side and the alley side, and then parking on the main level. So the intent is right now is that the Gamber family who's selling me the project would also come into the commercial space with a number of potential commercial businesses to use that space for.
All right. You're the gentleman that's doing the other one.
I'm doing the lofts, yes.
When was your intended timeline to do this?
Todd, you sound very small and very far away.
Well, I am. Well, I will get really. Just a quick question. I just want to make sure I understand that the access to the underground parking will be on the north side of the building.
Yes, there'll be two accesses on the north side, off the alley.
Thank you.
What's that? Oh, it's not underground, it's main level. So there's no lower level parking, just main level parking. Sorry, I misunderstood that.
Will the underground parking, or I'm sorry, the parking area, will that be one per unit, and will it be like taped off in the garage? In the whole area will be one open space with taped off, this is your parking?
There's a striped parking, but it's one stall per bedroom. So
Yeah.
there's 36 one bedrooms.
Yeah.
And that's just a regular, almost like a service parking lot, but enclosed. So they'll have stripes and they'll be numbered for their unit.
Yeah, but that's their area, it won't be walls down there?
No, correct.
Okay,
It's open.
thanks.
Yep. There are, where the squares are, there'll be posts for the precast. That'd be the only thing that'd be in there.
Comparison to the building that's there now, what would be the footprint of your new building?
It would take up the entire site.
Where will the parking be for the commercial property at?
Both in the Gamber or the family, or I'm sorry, I always get this mixed up because I got a family fair in Fargo for the grocery store parking lot, and then there'll be a street access also. This is the diagonal parking in front of the store.
Jill, does that meet city requirements then?
Well, the off-street parking that he's talking, or excuse me, on-street parking does not meet any of our off-street because it is on-street, but the C1 district does not have any minimum parking regulations.
And the parking lot that's shown there to the south of County Fair now, that's not going anywhere that we know of,
That's the new park.
so that will be gone.
Yes,
That whole area will be gone?
yes.
I thought the new park was gonna go in the building in front of the county fair. But no?
No. What's really weird about the high density, and this kind of mimics what's still going on in Fargo too, is I think, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but for C1, I wouldn't even have to have one parking stall per bedroom. I could probably put no parking on the main level and still meet the code. So from a rental standpoint, though, high density is great, but from a rental standpoint, since I own the building, manage the building, people aren't going to rent unless they have a place to park, and they're not going to pay, a good rent that I'm looking for unless they have enclosed parking also. So these kind of go above and beyond the C1.
In summary, there are 36 parking spaces in addition to what is required.
Correct.
So just to clarify then, the unit price per unit that's shown on the property overlay, that's not, you're not going to sell these off as?
No, they're
Okay.
apartments for rent.
Okay.
Yep.
Again, on the parking, so on the main floor parking, there'll be an arm or a gate so that it will only be accessible to,
Yeah, there's
Tenants.
there's two overhead garage doors.
All right.
If you go back to the last one. If you look at the top, that'll be the alley side. So that'd be the north side, and there's two overhead garage doors that come in for the banks of parking. So
Correct.
those will be automated with key fobs.
what, gotcha.
Yep.
The liquor sales, is that going to be for just beer and wine, or is that going to be full
That'd
service?
be, initially right now it's proposed for a liquor store. Correct. And I'll let Jeff, if you want to talk. Any more questions for me?
I think so.
Like Jesse said,
Jeff, could you state your name for the?
oh,
for the record,
sorry,
please?
Jeff Gamber from County Fair Foods. Like Jesse said, at this point in time, we're proposing maybe a liquor store on the one end of the banquet hall, or the building. About, was it 2,500 square feet or something like that? Yeah, that we'll be leasing from Jesse. And then on the park side, we're looking at putting a smoke shop, as far as not cigarettes, smoked meat shop and concessions for the park for when they have those functions also. So we can use it for dual functions. So, if people are out and listening to the band and they want, pulled pork sandwiches and things like that, and concession stuff items, we can open that up and use that for the concessions, just to make it a little bit more of a community-friendly atmosphere downtown for for most of those people.
But the liquor store would be on the other end.
The liquor store would be on the other end. That is correct. And that's not set in stone. I mean, we put it both ways. If we could do a pharmacy on one end or a liquor store. We just wanted something to complement our business, and so that's what we were looking at. So.
On the east side by the park, are you also going to have, like what you have now, like the banquet hall where people can have parties and that type of stuff?
That won't be quite as large to have that. That's only about, Jesse, it's 1,500, so I can't think off my head. It's like 1,500 square feet, 13 and a half square feet. So it'll take, some of that will take up for, doing smoked meats and things like that. But basically it'll be just, come up concessions for events that'll be at the park and things like that.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for Jeff or Jesse?
I guess I should, do you guys have anything? Okay.
Not that it's probably pertinent to this, but I'm just curious for myself. This park that's proposed, I don't know how far along that plan is. Will there be public restrooms there?
I'll take it back and sanitize every time. And around. Just don't lick my hands. So I can't address the city park, the downtown park, but on the Ruins project that will probably come up here in the future, where the palace is right now, that does have public space that we have in the plan for public bathrooms and also a warming house, ice skate rental area for the downtown park ice skating rink. So we're kind of planning on that.
Okay, and again, it doesn't really affect this, I'm just kind of curious for myself and what the whole overlook really
Yeah, no,
means.
all of these projects are, you know, the Parkside Place where the banquet hall is now and the Ruins project on the other side. Those are all trying to kind of encompass that whole downtown park.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak on behalf or against this conditional use permit? Yeah, it's Plans Commission. No other one that wants to speak on to this item. I'd take a motion to approve this conditional use permit.
I'd make that motion to approve resolution or conditional use permit 20056.
Second.
I'll second that.
All right. Any further discussion before we take a vote? Blake or Todd? Anything?
K's, yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
Kay's made the motion. Can I have a second?
No, I didn't
No,
make the
Lee,
motion.
Lee made motion. Todd.
I'm
Todd-
sorry.
Todd voted yes.
Colleen motioned. Oletsky seconded. Todd's is a yes. And now Stein,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Dargis Johnson,
Yes.
and Dolly.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Me too.
Yeah, me too. I'll vote too. I'll say yes.
This is all very, very
It's all
disorganized.
very weird.
It's all
Bear
very
with
weird.
us.
Sorry, Bonnie.
That's okay.
All right, next item. 20057. Jesse Craig for Generations On first.
Okay, so the applicant here again is Jesse Craig. This is for Generations on First LLC. The property address is, for now, until it's pinned down tighter, if it changes, it's 26 First Avenue Southwest. And let me just bring it up here. All right, the owners of the property, are you the owner now officially, Jesse?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
The first parcels will close in June.
Okay, so there are, this is not closed yet, but Jerky's, Livingston's, Stevenson, and the City of Watertown are the owners, current owners. The conditional use request is that the applicant seeks approval to develop a 5-story building in the C1 Community Commercial and Downtown Overlay Districts to be utilized as apartments, that's 72 units, over main floor parking and commercial uses, including a senior center, Meals on Wheels. This is pursuant to permitted uses, various permitted uses in the C1 zone, and also apartments, again, over 4 units using the upper floors of commercial buildings, and civil social organizations as conditional uses in the C1. It's contingent upon compliance with the purpose and intent of the C1 Community Commercial District and the Downtown Overlay District, and specific rules governing individual conditional uses. The staff finds that apartments over 4 units using the upper floors of commercial buildings and civil social organizations are listed conditional uses for the C1 Commercial Community District, and the definition of a civil social organization in this case is an establishment that promotes, or establishments that promote the interest of their members or that promote a particular cause, except labor, political, or professional organizations. These establishments may provide grant-making foundations or charitable trusts, raise funds for social welfare activities such as health, educational, scientific, and cultural activities. They may solicit contributions and offer memberships. Establishments in this category may operate bars and restaurants for their members. This is a proposed redevelopment project, again, in downtown Watertown. The applicant has submitted floor plans and written requests which reflect or do not reflect the following requirements of the ordinance, one of which is specific rules governing individual conditional uses, and that is the ingress, egress, again, off-street parking and loading, screening, buffering, signage, exterior lighting, required yards and open space, and general compatibility with the rest of the district. The purpose of the C1 district, to provide retail and service uses that serve the whole community and supply a wide range of goods and services required by the primary marketable population, and to permit development of the community retail centers of a size and in the locations shown in the comprehensive land use plan. And again, the purpose and intent of the downtown overlay district is to promote development of a compact pedestrian-oriented downtown consisting of high-intensity employment center, vibrant and dynamic mixed-use areas, and residential living environments that provide a broad range of housing types for an array of housing needs. Number 2, promote a diverse mix of residential, business, commercial, office, institutional, educational, cultural, and entertainment activities for the workers, visitors, and residents. Number 3, encourage pedestrian-oriented development within walking distance. 4, create a place that represents a unique, attractive, and memorable destination for visitors and residents. 5, enhance the community's character through the promotion of high-quality urban design and historical preservation. Again, the C1 in this area also is exempt from the off-street parking and loading requirements, and it's also, it is not exempt from the landscape and lighting standards, as this does not fall into the same area as defined by ordinance. So this property is not exempt from landscape and lighting standards. A replat or development lot agreement is required. So this board must determine if satisfactory provision and arrangement has been made concerning 210202 2B7A through H in the chapters and sections I just described. If generally endorsed, conditions of approval must be specified as building permit may be issued upon compliant application without return to this board.
Just for the record, I'm going to recuse myself.
Okay, for the record, Dargis Johnson recused herself for this item. Alrighty. Anything else to share on this one, Joe? Anyone here to speak on behalf or against this item?
So again, I'm the builder. This one is going to be 72 unit, 55 and older housing project. The 11,000 square feet of commercial on the main level will be leased to the senior center for $1 a year for 100 years or whatever it comes to be. I mean, again, this is being built so that to kind of move them out of the current situation they're in and give them a new senior center with the new amenities, new kitchen. They have 72 to 100 plus potential members that are going to be living right above them. So it's an amenity for the senior center and it's an amenity for my tenants because they both can utilize that. There will be a open rooftop patio above the senior center that will be accessible for both the tenants and the senior center members. Both this one and the Parkside one proposing to try to get started in July of this year with completion around July of next year. This one is short, so we do not have one parking stall per bedroom on this one. With the clientele in that age group, they didn't necessitate the fact that they would probably need a parking stall per bedroom, and they were more interested in having a large enough senior center to accommodate what they're used to now and then into the future for expansion and more members potentially.
Was it your intent then to, since this is not exempt from some of the codes and stuff, was your intention to accommodate any landscape and lighting requirements?
Yeah, absolutely. This is more of, it's not your downtown high density. It's more of the, borderline on existing neighborhoods. So we want to, keep any existing trees that we have and curb grass and things of that nature. So we want to maintain that, if not expand upon that.
All right. Anything else? Anyone else here to speak on this item?
Yeah, my name's Adam Connery. I own, excuse me, Empire Pizza across the street. I guess my only questions were how it's going to affect the parking in that area in the future, if the other parking lot will stay city and public, and then if there'd be any utility disruption.
So if you see me sanitizing my hands, I've got a 6-year-old at home that's susceptible. So the auditorium parking lot on the other side of the block or the side of the alley, that will not be, that remains city owned. The two smaller parking lots that are in the blue, that there's some moving parts yet on that, so the city has to make a decision on whether they're gonna sell that to me or deed that to me for this project. But otherwise, the rest of the auditorium park, other than the senior center having events, dances at nights and things like that to hopefully utilize it, that would all remain. Utilities, I wouldn't see any issues with that. They're usually pretty good at being able to shut them off at the curb and things like that for, you know, new utilities that have to come into that site.
Is the stretch of First between Broadway and the next street over, I can't read it, is that diagonal or is that parallel parking on the street?
I think it's parallel. Is it
Well,
diagonal
it's
up to the
diagonal
alley?
from the courthouse. Yep. So in front of Empire, it's all diagonal, and then to the east, is it all diagonal too?
Yeah, there's yellow curve, and then there's like 3 or 4 diagonals, but there's actually overhead doors that are in that building right there.
Okay.
Oh, that's right.
It's kind of a goofy parking area. So my employees and I, we all park across the street in the existing city parking lot.
That is parallel parking in front of the law office, isn't it?
Okay.
Chip, do you have any concerns or anything with this? Okay.
All right. Any other comments from anyone in the? All right. Seeing none, I guess ask for a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve 20057. Conditional use.
I'll second that.
All right. Any other discussion? I trust that the developer will work with the city for any, you know, with regard to the parking and the landscaping, the lighting, and everything else. So, with respect to the conditional use, that would be what's in front of the board this afternoon. Any other discussion? All right. Ready to take a vote?
Culhane,
Yes.
Oletsky,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Kays,
Yes.
Dolly.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passed. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Jesse.
All right, next item. 20058, Mike Landsberger for 810 Properties. And let the record show Dargis Johnson is back on the panel.
The owner applicant of this property is Michael Landsberger, doing business as 810 Properties LLC. The property address for the new building would be 208 8th Avenue Southeast. Application was submitted requesting to construct a non-conforming 1,800 square foot commercial building on a substandard 13,000 square foot parcel located in the C3 Highway Commercial District. Said structure is proposed to be constructed 14 feet from the front north property line, where a minimum 40 feet is required, on a 13,000 square foot parcel where a minimum 20,000 square feet is required, and deficient in minimum off-street parking standards and requirements. The application was denied based on the following ordinance regulations. 210302 prohibits the design and creation of nonconformities. 211003 height and placement regulations for non-residential structures, and Chapter 216.001, the requirements for open yards and setbacks. The applicant appeals those requirements of the current zoning ordinance. Staff finds that there is a 2,800 square foot area of compliant buildable area on this 13,000 square foot parcel, upon which 2,980 square foot of permanent structures currently exist. The staff had not a lot of input except to say that the ordinance verbatim has exclusive verbiage on, or specific verbiage on, creating non-conforming buildings and structures, and that their lot size requirements are to be of a certain size, which this does not make, and off-street parking and loading is supposed to definitely be met before another structure or a non-compliant structure be built. And I probably won't read through all of that, but that is in section 211003, 2, A, B, and C, and 210302, 3, 4, and 5.
Jill,
Yes.
this is Todd. The video is delayed. It comes slow, so I can't look at the video while I'm talking to you. I have a couple quick questions. This proposed structure is going to be a commercial structure. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then there's on the lot plan, it shows there's an existing house. Is that part of this ownership lot?
This site plan says existing house, but it's actually an office building.
Okay. All right, that's why I was confused. Thank you.
Yes.
So the existing house is going to remain, or the existing office?
This house is, or excuse me, building is supposed to remain, I believe, yes.
And then, so then the proposed building is the one to the,
This is proposed,
right?
and this exists also. It used to be a garage to the house. Now it's probably storage. And then there's this little corner building that a lot of people might be familiar with that sits right on the property lines, basically, in the boulevard.
It might be valuable, Jill, to pull up
Or
the street that's showing that building. I think everybody in the community is probably familiar with that corner being probably one of the most dangerous from a visibility standpoint. That building would be removed as part of this application. Is that correct?
I will let the applicant speak to that. We can.
Yeah,
Oh, do you
open up
wanna-
to public comment.
There you go,
Mike
Mike.
Landsberger. Yes, that building would be taken out and removed. I bought this property in December, and
Put the microphone to your mouth. So
oh, okay. Is that better? Okay, sorry. But I mentioned I bought this property past December, and that building that sits there, that will be taken out, and that is kind of made a blind intersection for that area, probably for 50 years or better. And if there's, and I was looking for an inline property setback on that, because I do own the rest of the block. That's, so there should be no issue with parking or some of those issues. And the house there, that's Lavacek Insurance.
So,
Jill?
how many parking places do you expect for Lavacek Insurance?
Well, they've been getting along really well with
Yeah.
the current parking, and
But-
we wouldn't be intruding on any of that.
But with the proposed building, the access will be off of 8th Avenue, correct?
Correct.
And how many parking places do you need for a building of that size?
Oh, I would probably say, I don't think we would need over 5 or 6 at max, but we can park on other parts of the, to the east of the new building also.
So are you going to get like an easement from yourself to the east stating that whoever owns this property, that'll transfer with it, that they'll always have access to that?
Right,
To the
right.
east?
That would be no issue.
Okay.
That'd be no issue. It's been like somebody mentioned earlier, Jill, I believe, that it's been kind of an eyesore for a long time, and I would clean the place up and make it look good, I hope.
So that whole corner where the building is now is just going to be green space?
Yes, yes.
Jill, this is Todd. I had a quick question. You had said that staff said that a structure could be constructed on the property and meet all the setbacks. How would that lay out?
Well, I thought I was okay on the setbacks for the west side, the east side, and the south side. The issue I thought that was probably going to bring up here would be the north side. But I was hoping to line it up with the building to the east, which I own also.
Mr. Kays, the 40 by 70 buildable area, if you can see the little hand on my screen, that's about where this would be for this parcel, outlined in blue, the exterior lines. That parcel would lie about right here, and it would be a total of about 2,800 square feet, 40 by 70. That is the actual legal buildable area of this parcel.
So is there any reason, Bernie, that you wouldn't just connect the buildings? Is there some reason that they need to be separated?
I would prefer to have them separated, to connect them would be not a very good project. It wouldn't come out very good. Right, with this one here on an independent building, it can stay independent, and it shouldn't intrude on any of the other buildings on the property. But connecting would be tough.
But the whole thing would have to be sold as one piece, one parcel in the future, correct?
Probably, I would prefer to do it that way. That's the way I would put it up.
Jill, I guess that's a question for you too. Would that have to be, since replatted as one parcel to be sold?
His application is for lots 14, 15, 16, and 17, and the westerly portion of the vacated alley that runs in here. And so, yeah, that's up to engineering right now, but he's going to have at least a development lot agreement, if not a replatting, to develop further here, is my understanding. And, yeah, this is the parcel that he has described to us that would be.
And is that a
subject
problem, Bernie, to clean that up, as to sell that as one?
It would not be a problem, because I would prefer to do that probably anyway if I sold it.
Jill, can you?
And yeah, this is the parcel that he has described to us that would be.
And is that a problem, Bernie, to clean that up, as to sell that as one?
But Jill, does it meet requirements to have 3 separate buildings on one legal description?
In the C3 zone, you can have as many, as long as you meet setbacks. Right now, you can have as many commercial structures as you want. It is only a matter of meeting fire code with firewalls and those type of things.
Okay, with these buildings so close together, this is probably a Chip question. Do they have to have like special firewalls because the buildings are so close together? And I'm looking at the overhang too. Is there going to be a problem with that? I mean, the overhangs, are they going to kind of like touch? Or be really close?
There'll be a way to make it so it's legal according to the fire code. I know I didn't answer your whole question, but there's a way we can build it and make it work.
Jill, can you pan over to be the east so we can see that other property in the...
This property?
Correct. So that other home office, for lack of a better term, that's what you're looking to keep in line with on the new structure?
Yes.
So then you're going to have on that property to the east enough parking for that, where that MJ Salon is, where that little office, home office is, and for your new proposed building?
Yes.
That'll all fit on there?
Yes, I think it'll fit very well, and I don't think there'll ever be an issue on parking.
And if Brandy over here, I was upstairs when I called in, but so he would be required to meet the minimum off-street parking requirements for whatever his structure size was, and then otherwise he would have to come back to you for a variance. But that is something that we'll look at then when he submits a commercial site plan. And then also we would require a replat just because all the parcels are, they're not complete parcels at this point. They're platted lots, but they need to be replatted to meet. And then that's where we can look at the setbacks and everything too. And then also to add, I did hear another comment where there is an inline provision that if the board wants to consider that, you can look at the existing structures on site and then have him conform to what the setbacks are of those that are there at this point. If that building's removed.
The building will be removed. The building will be removed.
Yep, so then instead of going with the setbacks of the C3 district, then that you could adhere to the inline provision of the existing structures.
Okay.
Would that be acceptable, or is that out of line of what you guys were discussing?
Jill, could you remind us what would be the setback from the north?
The setback from the north is a front setback, and that's 40 feet. And the each lot is 25 feet. So the 40-foot setback, actually, if you see over here on the site plan, this dotted line is basically where that 40-foot setback falls.
Jill, this is Todd again. You know, it seems like we're trying to put a 10-pound ham in a 5-pound sack, and part of that's our own problem as the city, because we have lots zoned, certain zoning districts where they were platted lots before. You know, it doesn't meet the minimum square footage because, you know, they were small 25, 50-foot lots. I don't have a problem personally with the variance from the lot area because we've done that many times on these old existing platted lots. The issue, I would say that if we do move forward, we would want to have some sort of waiver of right to protest the installation of sidewalk or curb, if and when that would come about. And also, I know it's technically non-conforming, but if we give it a variance, it becomes conforming. Cleaning up that corner would be a good thing. And those are my comments.
I'd be willing to work with the city on those issues Todd just brought up.
So you have garage doors coming in from the north, and then are you having customer parking along the east side of the building? Is that sidewalk and then parking along there?
No, I didn't plan on garage doors coming in from the north at this point.
That's just parking then that you're
Yeah,
showing?
right.
Okay, so what are you planning around the east side of the building? Then you show a sidewalk, I assume. Is it?
Yeah, I would probably put in more parking. I'd probably either blacktop it or cement it.
It's hard concrete now, or I guess it would go in.
It's gravel and grass.
The way that you have this drawn out by Mac Land Survey, where the building sits, the proposed building sits, that is in line then with property to the
East.
for the east then.
Yes.
Okay. Any other comments, Mike? No. Anyone else here to speak on behalf or against this item?
Now, Mr. Landsberger, you're thinking about having parking. I never realized that. Parking on the east side of the building where you have diagonal parking?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So,
Could we get the corner, a definite corner on that, the little chunk then? Could that be green again?
it possibly, yeah, I was planning on kind of probably putting in green.
You know where I'm
on the
talking,
corner.
right in that?
Yeah, right there where she had the arrow. Yep. I was planning
Well,
on,
not there, on the other side of the parking driveway. So where the alley, yeah, in that corner, Jill, where
Well, that I was not planning on greening. It's blacktop now. And MG Hair kind of uses it to get for access. You know, I wasn't planning on greening that part of the blacktop.
Jill will.
On the west side, I was.
Okay, Jill. Now, if Mr. Landsberger on the west side makes that all green, and then we have that driveway, well, have it all paved, will he meet all of the requirements for green zone then?
What needs to be green is a 15-foot boulevard. If the boulevard public area doesn't meet that, it's supposed to come in onto the private property. So this is all green already. This part here has an extra wide parking area, which is on the street. It's not off-street parking. So this doesn't qualify to parking for off-street requirements. We're not sure. This wasn't in his plans, so I'm not entirely sure that an aisle with 45-degree parking or whatever will meet requirements here on the east side, but that will be taken into consideration when we look at the complete commercial application. And I guess he might have to come back if that doesn't meet regulations. But this parking space here on the north side of the building is only 14 feet. That doesn't meet any parking requirements here.
There's also some off-street parking too on that 8th Avenue. Too. Yeah, on-street parking.
Bernie, do you have any idea what you will rent that out for as far as a business?
I was hoping an office, because it would stay cleaner. You know, I don't want a mechanic shop or something of that, because, you know, I like to have it clean. And for an office, they don't have a lot of...
So you haven't drawn up a building?
Well, we haven't done the specifics on it. But it'll look like most of my other buildings.
Which you do a good job. It's not that, I just, again, addressing the parking, you know, depending on what you're going to have in there, that would be...
Well, it'd be I think it's the size of a building that won't, I think the people that rent it would have to fit their needs. If it was, if they were a larger operation, the building would probably be too small. It's kind of set up for a small insurance guy, lawyer, different type of business like that, investment. But if it was, if anybody that would need more parking, I don't think the building would be big enough for him. So.
Right.
So, Jill, this is Todd again. So the property across the street on 8th Avenue South, is that property zoned C3 or R2A?
I believe this is residential here. Yeah, this is R2A.
Okay, and so, one other quick question. So the parking as described in the application, the parking itself meets the minimum requirements?
The parking, as far as staff
Whether or not we like to park in the boulevard, I mean, if he, as laid, does he meet the minimum requirements for the square footage of the building?
he didn't show parking on his application. It was, I guess, assumed that there was some parking being done in the building for this specific building.
Oh.
In the building?
How many parking spaces are required for a 1,700 square foot building?
It depends on the uses of the building. For
office use.
For office use.
So the parking should be a part of this application, and so that would also have to be varianced at this time, and that it wouldn't be reviewed at a later date. So it would be a variance towards the setbacks and the parking.
However, the parking variance was not advertised, was it?
In the minimum lot size.
We did advertise that it is deficient in minimum off-street parking standards, or maybe, yep.
But the staff report says it will comply.
Correct.
You know, I had mentioned a little bit earlier, excuse me, Bonnie, that I do own the property around the building, so, you know, there will always be plenty of parking. And I think we'd have enough parking without intruding on any other part of the property.
7 parking stalls are required.
So what I'm thinking about is that you would have to get a variance from your property to the east of this to access the parking on the east side of this building.
If
correct?
need be, yes.
If need be. Would that meet their
You mean an
parking
easement
lot?
or a
Like a variance or something that would run with the property and run with his property to the east. So if he either sold either one of these, that would go with the property? Like a future owner would know, I still have to give him access to that property, even though I own the land to the east. Would that work?
Yes, more than likely that would work. If it ran with the property, that would meet the parking requirements, or the applicant may just have to come back and ask for a variance if they choose not to go that route.
You know, I might mention also, this will be the last development that'll be done on, you know, on that block, as long as I own it. You know, I don't plan on doing any more building or anything.
Just an idea, it shows, the driveway, which would accommodate, 2 vehicles, maybe 3? What about diagonally parking on that? What if the off the street you came in at a diagonal to get more length in there, Jill? Would that be something that's possible? No, onto 8th Avenue. So where he's showing a parking lot on his plan, a driveway, whatever you want to call it. If you diagonally parked on, turned that and widened it, maybe even have to widen it, obviously, if you're going to diagonal park on there, would that help him get his 4 or 5 places that he would need, or is it still too short? Is it still?
This is only 14 feet in length here. I don't think it would meet, yeah. Well, this is Boulevard and this is the private property and it's 14 feet. I don't think that's going to meet any of the diagonal 60, 45. I don't know that for sure. Again, he didn't.
I'm just throwing that out there as an idea. Maybe that if you change that as an angle, that would get him.
And that's something we can discuss with him over the commercial building permit. And again, I guess if he doesn't come back with meeting the parking standards that we need, he may have to come back to this board.
Is boulevard parking allowed in this area?
No, boulevard parking is not allowed unless a board grants the approval of it.
Jill, this is Todd again. My best recollection was we have allowed the city has allowed boulevard parking around Roosevelt and a few other places, to my best recollection. So we have allowed it, correct?
So we have allowed it in places, but this is not allowed here. And so an off-site parking easement would suffice, but you should make that a condition of the variance upon you, if you want to approve that. So using his other property, you could do an off-site easement that would make his parking requirements, his minimum parking requirements sufficient, but you would just want to make that a condition of your approval.
Where it's on the street, not boulevard parking, but on the street parking?
No, still off-street
off.
parking. So on his property, on his private property, because we wouldn't allow the boulevard parking in this location. That's something that we look at. That's allowed by ordinance, by variance through the board on First here, but not in this location. We don't allow boulevard, parallel, diagonal parking. So, but if you wanted to look at, if he wasn't able to meet the minimum parking requirements on this property that's being requested for variance, you could do an off-site easement because he owns the entire block, but just make that conditional of your approval. Does that make sense?
So then that off-parking easement would have to run on both properties, right?
But then
one to the east and the one to the west.
But then we don't know if that takes away the minimum standards for parking spaces from another building.
Right,
At this
and then
point.
so then we would be at the same position that it would have to come back for a variance if it was not allowable, if you weren't able to make that work.
Repeat that again, please.
So as far as the boulevard parking wouldn't be allowed, but you can do an off-site easement because you own the adjacent properties and that entire block. So if you were able to make the parking work for this piece of property on another one, you could do an easement. But if it were to take away from another building that you have, then you would still be in the same position of having to come back for a variance.
Okay. We could do, which I was hoping we could do, was do diagonal parking on the east side of the new building too.
Yeah, if it's on your property and you can make that work and get some spaces.
Yeah, we would. And like I said, I think there might be, shouldn't be an issue of over 6 cars at one time there.
And the minimum requirement will be 7 for this for a 1,700 square foot commercial building.
Well, I think we could make that happen with the east side and the front.
Yeah. Well, and so you wouldn't.
We're not going to do the front.
Not
right?
using the boulevard on your property. So if we can do an off-site easement, but that's then what the board would have to add as a condition to the variance, that if you need to use your other properties to meet the parking requirements, that an off-site easement would be allowed.
Okay.
And then if it does take away from the parking of your other existing structures, then you would have to come back for a variance at that time.
Okay. I understand.
Mr. Chair, if you're ready, I'm ready to make a motion once we close public hearing.
Right. Anybody else here to speak on behalf or against this item?
So just to clarify to everyone, there will be no access off of 8th Avenue then that is shown on the plan.
Let's wait till we have a motion.
Okay.
Right. Okay. We're going to close the public hearing then. And we talked about waiver right to protest. We talked about parking. We talked about the building that's being removed to be green space. Anybody want to venture a motion to include all that?
Mr. Chair, I have a motion.
All right.
It's going to be cumbersome. I make the motion to approve the variance from the minimum lot area requirement. I make a motion to allow the proposed structure to be constructed 14 feet from the north property line. I further make the motion that parking has to be contained off-street on property owned by Mr. Landsberger, with that to be worked out with staff. If the parking is to be located on the westerly side of the property, a sidewalk needs to be constructed along 8th Avenue so those people can get to the building. I also believe that the 15-foot of grass space or 14-foot of grass space should be kept along the north side of the property, which would be on the south side of 8th Avenue Southeast. And a waiver of right to protest the construction of a curb and or sidewalk at time to be laid out by the city. No diagonal parking on the north side of the property.
Okay.
Second.
Any further discussion on that?
Yeah, I would like to know that, I know I'm kind of like beating a dead horse here, but now if he gets to park on the east side of the property, to access it will be on his other lot, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Bonnie?
Yeah?
If he parks on the east side, my motion is that he needs to construct a sidewalk to run him on the north side so he gets access his property. If he doesn't construct on the east side, then he's going to work with staff to find parking suitable to meet the requirements on the remainder of the block.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, on his privately owned property.
Any other discussion? All right, ready for roll call vote.
Kays,
Yes.
Culhane,
Yes.
Dargits Johnson,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Oletsky,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
and Dolly.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item. Jason Getty, item 20059.
Okay, the owner of this property is Dan Jensen and Dale.
Mr. Chair, sorry for the interruption. Would the city attorney give us an opinion of whether or not we can hold a public hearing on both 59 and 60 because they are on the same property?
I don't see any reason why you couldn't.
Todd, you're
Thank
saying
you.
Todd, you're saying that when we open up the public hearing, that anybody wants to speak on this one or the next one, that they should come up at that time?
Right, so maybe Jill could just go over both applications on the front end.
Right, so, okay, for the purposes of combining these, it's going to be 20059 and 20060.
Okay. The owner of this property is Dan Jensen and Dale Even. The property address is 800 through 802 West Kemp, and the current bar casino area is 7 8th Street Southwest. The applicant is Jason Getty, doing business as 4 Holdings LLC for Rivercard Casino and the Westside Laundry. First, the conditional use request. The applicant seeks approval to relocate and expand the area used for the sale, serving, and consumption of alcoholic beverages and the operation of video lottery machines in a laundromat located in the C3 Highway Commercial District pursuant to 21-28023 service establishment with 28-28033 bar or tavern. This all needs to be contingent upon compliance with the purpose of the C3 Highway Commercial District, 2.0102 location, and 21.0202 2B7 through A through H specific rules governing individual conditional uses. Staff finds that Applicant seeks to create a new 1,056 square foot patron lounge in the northeast section of this commercial building, offering video lottery and malt beverages to their customers during their wait. If approved, they will apply to City Council to transfer their alcoholic beverage license. Bar tavern is a listed conditional use for the C3 Highway Commercial District, and the definition of bar tavern is any establishment, including restaurants and gambling establishments, licensed to sell alcoholic beverages for consumption upon the premises where sold or provided. The term bar tavern shall also include establishments licensed to sell alcoholic beverages for consumption off the premises where sold. The applicant has submitted written requests, site plan, and floor plan, which reflect or do not reflect the following requirements of the ordinance. Again, we have to review specific rules governing individual conditional uses, including ingress, egress, off-street parking and loading, refuse and service areas, utilities, screening, buffering, signage, exterior lighting, required yards and open space, and general compatibility. The off-street parking and loading requirements. The public right-of-way or boulevard is being used in this case to accommodate parking spaces. The 14 parking spaces shown do not meet minimum design standards. There is no indication in the application for outside storage or display, so we don't have to go over that. Landscape and lighting standards. This substandard C3 zone property is lacking in required boulevard landscape, which is grass and tree improvements, and utilizing the public right-of-way or boulevard to satisfy insufficient off-street parking area. The parking lot requirements include that there is no screening of parking lot or dumpster as required by 21-7304. The property is lacking in basic infrastructure on the east side due to the parking. It lacks sidewalk and curb, and the boulevard is basically being used as its own over-width driveway or aisle in order to maximize customer parking. Now, the variance side of this is that the application was submitted requesting to relocate and expand the floor area that is currently used for the sale, serving, and consumption of alcoholic beverages and the operation of video lottery machines on a substandard parcel in the C3 district. It is deficient in minimum off-street parking standards requirements, deficient in minimum area and width requirements, and deficient in boulevard public right-of-way and landscaping requirements. It was denied based on Chapter 2103, which prohibits the creation of nonconformities or the expansion or increase of their use, the increased need for off-street parking and loading requirements, and the lack of landscape and lighting standards. The applicant seeks to relocate. I'm going to bring up this floor plan here. They have a current, this is the site plan for the building, and here is the floor plan. And where this premises was approved a few years ago to have this area as their lounge, now they want to expand into this area. And it is, the old area is 400 square feet, and the new area is 1,056 square feet on a 9,375 square foot lot. So this is called River Card Casino Lounge, and although expansion of the building is not requested, only interior renovations, the expanded use impacts the parcel's already insufficient parking situation. Again, I'm not going to read through verbatim section 210302, but it goes into the fact that we are now expanding a nonconformity, and it does not even currently comply with minimum needs or regulations. So this board must determine for the conditional use if there is satisfactory provision and arrangement made concerning 210202 2B7A through H and the titles and chapters I just went over. If application is endorsed, the board may consider conditions of approval such as limiting approval to the lounge only, the building only, etc., if they so desire. Fulfillment of any or all lacking boulevard infrastructure requirements and or any other conditions they deem necessary.
Jill, I have a quick question. When the original bar tavern was put on the southwest corner, did the city, Board of Adjustment at that time address minimum lot area width requirements, and wasn't a variance granted at that time or not?
I included the minutes, I believe, in your packet.
Yeah, I was a little bit unsure though. I mean, but it seems to me you approved it at that time.
Regardless of approving it at that time, now it's being expanded.
But the variance itself from the lot area and lot width, nothing changes there, so why would we be looking at a variance on that?
I don't think there was specifically an a granting of a variance for that.
And that was my question. Thank you.
A variance for what specific component of it?
Lacking the minimum in area and width requirements for the parcel.
So it was not addressed then? The conditional use was granted, but not the parking and et cetera, right?
If my memory serves me correctly, I was on the board at that time, but the idea was it was gonna be a patron lounge, that there wasn't gonna be additional traffic generated from the casino bar. Obviously, if we're gonna over double the square footage, that's gonna make an impact on use.
Right. See, the applicant is here. Would you please come up to the, or I guess you sit over here. I guess that's the new plan here.
The hot seat.
Please state your name.
Jason Getty.
Thank you. Jason, can you kind of just tell us what's going on here with respect to, you get your introduction letter, but kind of summarize what's going on here.
Yeah, definitely. So this building has been, the front part of it where I am proposing to move into has been vacant for the last 2 years, and this place has been for sale during that time and for rent, and for the current condition, the deferred maintenance on it, it just hasn't been very rentable. And I, upon acceptance, if possible with this tonight, I have a purchase agreement in place with the owners to buy the building, and then I would occupy the whole building instead of having half of it empty right now. And then I would, what my plan is to separate the two businesses. Right now it's built inside of the laundromat, and I had to move around some machines and take some away, and so then I want to occupy up there and renovate up there.
So is it currently in operation as a laundromat?
Yes.
What's the empty part that you're talking about? Then that's another part of the building.
Yep. So I didn't have all the parking spaces there because that a couple years ago there was a tax accountant service in there, and it's been empty ever since, like for the last couple years. And so yeah, that, I guess I don't know what else.
To be clear, though, you could buy the building without expanding the video lottery part, right? I'm not saying it'd be practical from an economic standpoint, but that would not preclude you from purchasing the building if you so choose, right?
Right. Well, I just, it needs more space, and I was gonna, with the current location of it, I would either have a one-person office in there, or to generate a little bit of income that way as well, or I would put a game lounge for kids or something for the laundromat to gain a little bit more revenue.
Right.
Is my thinking, because if I currently lease the building, and if my lease runs up and somebody buys the building, I'm kind of subject to either rent going up or being moved.
With the expanded space, and be what, roughly doubling it? Was that what I got?
That's just how big that size is without having to renovate extensively.
What was your plan then for the number of machines and that type of thing?
For
the video lottery part. So.
Currently it is 7 machines.
Right. Was the intent then to put in more machines then? With
I can have up to 10. So if the space allows for it, I probably would.
Up to 3 more then?
Yes, I
okay.
could. Well, per the license regulations.
Would you do away with the existing little video lottery and make that into something else and then so you would have just one video lottery?
Yes, I only have one license, so
Yeah.
I would just move that license up front, and then
Okay.
that existing spot would be
Something else.
You're right.
Okay.
So Jill, with the building as a whole, is there enough parking spots? There isn't. How short parking is?
Well, there are 14 parking spaces shown. Again, they're not necessarily by engineering parking standards. And there are 20 required, so we're at least 6 short, and they are non-conforming.
And last time I only had 10.
And this is like boulevard parking again. Is that allowed in this area?
Well, in effect, they're using the boulevard area as an overwidth driveway or an aisle, as you want to see it. And that's not what off-street parking actually is. But
Right. So anyone that would buy this building then would be already in violation of the number of parking spots that. So it isn't necessarily Mr. Getty. Whoever owns this building would have that same issue.
I guess the question is, do you want to expand the uses of the building such that it requires more parking, and yet the parking can't be expanded?
You're suggesting that relocating the video lottery from the back of the building to the front of the building would require more parking spaces?
Well, parking is decided by, different ways for different uses, and in this case, it's defined by seats for the video lottery, which I believe, was there 7, Jason?
Yes.
7 video lottery machines and seats at a bar area, and I guess we've got it right here. And so that's how parking was determined, is how many spots were needed. 20. And the laundry, the laundry use also.
Right.
And before this, I only had 10 of those 14 spots, technically.
So hypothetically,
So
if you were to expand just the laundry room, the laundry machines, Jill, would that again cause parking issues? Or how do you determine on something like that where it's come and go?
The laundry, actually, the building official did the calculations on the parking. He usually does, but I believe he used service, commercial or service for the laundry part. And I don't think that would expand much there if it was actually that. As Jason said, he had the use of only 10 parking spots the last time he came, but we had to determine what parking needs were based on the offices in front, and then the laundry and the lounge the last time.
Okay, so if Jason were coming before us to add washing machines and dryers to the front of this building, would we be here?
No, probably not.
So I think for the parking that they would have used the community commercial, which is 5 per 1,000 square feet, without the now relocation of the casino. Do you know what that square footage is of the remainder of the building, not including the conditional use area for the bar tavern? Okay, so it's
I'm sorry.
anybody.
Oh, okay.
You'd have to, the dimensions of the building.
So it's 1,056 square feet, I believe.
Yes.
From what I'm
just a
reading
minute here. Yep.
And then it's 400 square feet for the casino area. So if we go by community commercial, it's 5 per 1,000. So he would be at 5. And then if there's 1 per 3 seats, and if he's going to do 7, then that would be 2. 3, actually, if we go over that. So I'm only getting 8.
You used a 1,056 square foot area for the casino, and you calculated the seats and
For the
machines.
the laundromat.
No, this would be the casino, is 1,056 square feet. That's the new area for the casino.
The existing casinos.
400. The existing
pretty
casino is
small.
400.
Yeah, it's 20 by 22, so it's a little over 400. 440.
But you're gonna like double or triple the size of your casino, right?
It'd be about double.
Yeah.
Well, it's 30 feet by 23 feet, and then there's another spot that I was going to utilize just for the video lottery, so that's why it's included in this site plan. So it could be brought down to 30 by 23, which would be, in that 700 range. But there's just not much use for a 9 by 23 space. So that's why we had Darwin include that in the survey. Because we have to come up with a new legal description just for the area that will only be served as that, because none of the other part of the building will be able to be used, for drinking beer or anything like that.
Jason, the site plan shows the proposed new location and area of the as a 22 by 48 area. Is that correct then?
Yeah, what did I say here?
On the site plan?
Oh, excuse me. It's not 30. It's 39 feet. It's really small.
Well, it's are you
But
talking?
I was saying the front part is 39 by 23. I actually said 30, and then that other part is 9 by 23 that we included. So it does make it to that 48. Yes.
Okay.
Just in case if we were to use that part, we wanted that included.
What was your last point there, Jason? Sorry. Something about it was included. What was your point there?
On the floor plan.
Yeah, I was doing some math here.
Okay.
I didn't
There's
catch the last
a
sentence.
9 by 23 little office that we had him include it just in case if we were to use it as part of maybe just putting the machines in their own little area for privacy for the customers.
So 18 parking spots are required, so he's deficient 4. So that's really what the variance is that you're looking at.
Sorry, say it again, please.
18 parking spots is required, and he's deficient 4. So that's what you would have to look at variancing if it was allowable for what he has existing.
That's including the laundromat and the casino, but does not allow for any other businesses that might occupy some of this empty space.
How I got that 18 was I took the entire square footage of the building, which was like 4,000 square feet, 4,008, and then I subtracted out the casino, and then did seven machines for seats, I guess. So
Did you also get the bar seats?
no, I did not. So
And I think he wanted to go up to the 10 allowed, right? In the front part for machines?
I can.
So no matter, but I think no matter what, it's gonna just have to, no matter it's, you just have to look at it as he's gonna need a variance for what is there.
Right, but it might help to put things in perspective. We know, how many how many parking spaces we're talking about variance. Is it 14, is it 18, or is it 20?
The building official figured the 20.
20, okay.
Yes.
But now, if Jason were taking that front area and fixing it up to put a tailor in there or a dry cleaner or something related to, a shoe repair shop, what would that do to the parking then? I mean, if we're not adding bar stools and 3 more machines, is there something that can be put in that front and he not be violating parking? We're okay again, right? He wouldn't be here.
As if he kept his existing casino in the existing spot.
Well, I need to add to that. I'm sorry. I'm nodding yes, and yet the last time he was here, he was approved for a specific area and a specific size lounge for this building, and he even created a legal description placement of that lounge in the building, and the board specifically approved that, not the whole site, not the whole building, not the whole site. So he would have to be here regardless to change his location of that casino.
But if he leaves that alone and is coming, if he had someone else that would take that front.
Yeah, if the casino stayed where it was and he was just simply putting in like you said, a tailor shop or something, then not likely to be here.
Any permitted use.
And is that the crux of this variance? And because he's already got a conditional use permit to operate a casino, so we could expand the casino by the square foot as long as it's in the same building.
And it is compliant with other regulations, correct? Like the parking. That's why he's here. He may be able to expand the use by board approval if they feel that the granting is okay with the other necessary things he has to do for it, like meet parking, or you're granting a variance to parking.
This is Todd. How many machines do we have in the existing casino?
7.
And if we were just to keep 7 machines in the new casino, and you're just proposing 7 machines in the new casino, just an even trade?
Yeah, that's the layout I have for it. Yes.
Would you be against putting a restriction that you would only be allowed 7, or Mr. City Attorney, do we have the ability to restrict that because that's a state permit?
I wouldn't suggest it.
Thank you.
Okay, and then just to clarify the numbers, okay, 7 machines requires 20 parking spots. The way it is right
7
now.
machines, the other seating, and the uses of the laundromat all equaled a minimum of 20 spaces, 20 parking spaces.
Better way to put it, right. And then if you added more machines, then that would require more parking spots then. Okay. All right. Anything else that you have to add, Jason? Any other questions for Jason?
I don't think so. I guess my intent is to utilize that building a little bit better, and there's, like I said, there's been a lot of deferred maintenance on it, and so I'm getting it, trying to purchase it. I really, if I can't do this, I don't know if I'm going to go through it or if they're not. I'd really like to, and then I'd really like to try to clean it up on the outside, because I didn't own the building, so I didn't really want to put a lot of time and money into it when I didn't know if I was going to be there, because it was for sale for quite a long time, and there was talks of people that wanted it, but since I had you know, a lease for another 2 years. I still have a lease for 2 years, and they were gonna take over the whole building and, you know, make me find a new place. And financially, I won't be able to do that, to find a new place and to put the laundromat back in use. So I guess that's all I have for right now.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on behalf or against this item? Please hand the microphone over. Please state your name.
Hi, I'm Ruth Swenson, and I live right across the street from Jason's laundromat. And when they first approved this little casino, he assured us that that's all he wanted. It would never get any bigger. It's just a place for people to go and lounge while they're doing their laundry. Okay, and we did not really approve of it, and there were a lot of us here. Anyway, but now I can see the parking problem because people park across the street to go to his casino even. It has expanded him that much. I mean, the business must be kind of booming. But I just don't want the casino right in the front. We have a daycare that's just a couple places down, and the business just doesn't fit in out there. We're kind of trying to keep it homes there. You know, we have a lot of people living there, and I've lived there for many, many years. And I just, one thing too, we are in a high crime area out there. So.
Do you live on the north side of Camp Avenue?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Right there, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I live right on the north side. And this little casino has not caused any problems that I know of, you know, but we just aren't ready to have a wang bang, thank you ma'am, place across the street. I don't know. That's about all I have.
All right, thank you for your comments.
Put the overlay on for what's the zoning of that?
Yeah, so Jason's laundromat is in the C3 highway commercial here, adjacent to Kemp Avenue, and Ruth, as the speaker over here, she's in the R2A.
Ruth, have other people in the neighborhood said, have you guys talked about this, and you just came and represented them all? Yeah. Okay.
We just kind of want to keep it residential.
All right, thank you. Anyone else here to speak on behalf or against this item? All right, then I'm going to close the public hearing, and for purposes of continuing the discussion, I would ask for a motion on this. Now, are we?
Mr. Chair, I think this is Todd. Probably would the appropriate motion would be to look at the variance first, because if he can't get the variance to move, then there would be no reason to look at the conditional use. Just asking. Maybe the city attorney could weigh in.
Yes, that would make sense to me. The variance first and the conditional use.
I'll make a motion to approve the variance to allow the expansion of the casino or relocation to the new part of the building. And then that would also include the variance from 20 to 14 parking spaces.
Todd, does your motion include the variance to the minimum lot area and width?
Yes, all variants that need to be, the variance, lot area, lot width, Yes, all of them that were contained in the staff report that where they were lacking. This is solely to get the discussion moving.
Right, and then the addressing the off-street minimum parking, that would be a separate motion.
No, it's all, this would all, well, the variance contains all variances. He's asking for 14 spaces.
So your motion combines items 5 and 6, or 2039, 2059,
No,
2060.
the variance is on 2060, which would be allowed to have the interior renovation and relocate.
That's 2059.
And in order to do that, we handle that variance first, and then the question then becomes, if that goes through, then we can handle the conditional use permit on the casino. So we're dealing with lot area, setbacks, whether or not he's got enough parking, and whether or not he can have a bigger casino than what he has a permit for before. That expanding the nonconformity or whatever Jill called it before. So the time, if we get a second to the motion, then we can have a discussion on the parking.
All right.
Second.
All right, discussion on this item. I guess I'll start. I mean, I definitely see where Mr. Getty is going on this. I actually was on the board when he got the conditional use the first time, and it was designed at that point to be a casino for the laundromat patrons primarily. And even then it was kind of questionable. Now it's kind of flipped entirely where it's a casino building that doesn't have enough parking spots for what its intended use is. And I understand the dilemma. I get that, but it's kind of one of those things where, you know, maybe this isn't the best place for an appropriate place for a casino that's of the size that Mr. Getty wants. And I feel bad about that, but I'm not sure that this is a great location for the casino. Not necessarily, and with all due respect of the local residents too. It's the building. I mean, it's the setup. It's the parking. It's a problem.
I think just, you know, like Todd mentioned earlier, I think we're just trying to stick a ham in something that just isn't going to fit. So I think there's just too many, we're giving too many, you know, bending the rules too much. I mean, we like to work with someone, but it's just too many things that are, I guess, causing it to be a problem.
Any other comments? Any other discussion?
I just wanted to add to that even if the entire 4,000 square feet were community commercial or whatnot, and that he could use a permitted use, it still wouldn't meet the required parking. So how that structure's existed, nothing will ever change about it. And so.
Yeah, and so specific to the variance request in regards to the lot area and width, in regards to the infrastructure and the parking, this lot is an older lot that, in my opinion, we should look at as kind of a grandfather scenario, where it doesn't meet what you would need for current C3 definition lot. So just like Randy was saying, if this was just all commercial in there, commercial retail, we're still not going to meet those requirements. So purely from a variance standpoint of the site, I don't have an issue with it. Now, the conditional use and the type of use, I think, is a separate question here.
I agree with Blake. I think we just need to look at whether or not take the conditional use for the casino out of the equation. It's just whether or not if somebody else 5 years down the road wants to come in and turn this into a roller rink, The question is, they're going to have to come back and address the lot area, lot width, parking. And I'm comfortable approving the variances to all those things. Question then becomes, the next step will then be, are we okay with putting a bigger casino in the north end of the building or leaving it at the same end of the south end? That's the second step.
Lee, were you going to say something?
Nope.
All right, any other discussion? The public hearing is closed.
Mr. Chair, do we need to restate the motion?
Yeah, why don't you?
The motion, in my recollection as seconded, would be to approve the minimum lot area variance, approve the minimum lot width variance, approve the front yard setback corner variance, apply the variance to landscape requirements, and the minimum off-street parking spaces, and I'm not sure I can't remember what the east side lacks sidewalk and curb and gutter. All those 6 variances. And is that it? Is that it, Jill?
I believe so.
Which would then allow for them to expand the bar and casino area, but that's the second step. Do I have that right, Matt?
Correct.
Okay. Liam, is that what you agreed to in the second?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, any other further, any discussion on the motion?
Just for argument, there's enough boulevard and green space. I mean, we should be able to have the lighting and landscape, I guess, met instead of throwing that into that same motion.
Was that only on the east side, though, I think? Is that where the variance would apply to, Jill?
The landscape requirements were deficient on the East Boulevard side, yes. There's 82% parking.
The north still would have to stay grass.
Correct, but there's no, that I'm aware of, there's no trees, or maybe there, see.
I believe there's no trees on site.
I would be open to a friendly amendment to require trees on the north side.
Okay, do we have a second to the amended motion?
I'd second that.
A second by Hanson. All right, any other further discussion?
Oh, action on the motion. Okay, we're taking it all in one action?
Hold on. What is, I just have a question. What is trees, 2? Because it's
Whatever
usually
the
1 per 50 foot of frontage.
Whatever the requirement is.
Yeah, 4 to 5 trees, 4.
But just for the front, the north frontage?
That's the only place he has grass. Yeah.
Right, yeah, so that's what I think that you would take I mean, you wouldn't want 4 to 5 trees up in the north. So you should just have 1 per 50 feet of the frontage on the north side.
So he plants 1 tree.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify because you said trees.
Nope, I'm with you.
What was the question? We're voting on one, it's just the same motion, just been amended.
Yeah. With the tree.
My recollection of Roberts is that you vote on the amendment and then you vote on the motion. But I'll defer to chair.
Okay, so do we take a roll call vote on the amendment? That's what we're doing? All right.
All right, so roll call on amendment. Kays,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Culhane,
Yes.
Oletsky,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Dargits Johnson,
Yes.
Dolly.
Yes.
Motion passes
For the,
for the amendment.
right, okay, so now, any further discussion on the amended motion? All right, seeing none, do a roll call.
Kays,
Yes.
Culhane,
Yes.
Oletsky,
Yes.
Stein,
No.
Hanson,
I'm sorry, clarification, we're still on two?
Variance.
the variance, yep.
This is the variance.
Yes.
Yes. Dargits Johnson,
No.
Dolly,
Yes.
All right, motion passes.
motion passes.
All right. Now the conditional use, is this one 2059? Yes. All right, conditional use 2059. So we've got.
Mr. Chair, for the purposes of getting discussion started, I will make a motion to approve 2059, the relocation and expansion of the bar casino area from the southwest corner of the building to the, looks like the northeast corner of the building.
All right,
Second.
I have a second. Discussion on this motion.
I have a quick question for the city attorney. The bar tavern alcohol sales has to be so far away from a school or a church, or is the daycare considered one of those things that we have to look at when we're looking at alcohol sales?
It was not considered a school last time. It was considered a daycare, which is not part of that list.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
Again, to my earlier comment, when this was brought up to us last time, again, it was kind of sold to us on the idea that it was a lounge for the laundromat patrons, and so I guess I'm in opposition that we, double the size of the casino bar for this application.
Any other comments? All right, guess we're ready to vote. Take a roll call.
Kays,
No.
Culhane,
No.
Oletsky,
No.
Stein,
No.
Hanson,
No.
Dargits Johnson,
No.
Dolly.
No.
Motion fails.
All right, thank you. Next item. Casey and Becky Schultz, 20061.
Okay. All right, so Casey and Becky Schultz are the owner applicants of this appeal. The property is 388 North Lake Drive. Application was submitted requesting to construct a non-conforming 672 square foot garage on a 15,523 square foot parcel. Said structure is proposed to be constructed 4 feet from the primary structure, a single-family dwelling, where a minimum 10 feet is required, resulting in the creation of 2 attached garages where only 1 attached garage is allowed, and 14 feet from the rear north property line where a minimum 25 feet is required for attached garages. The application was denied based on 210302, which prohibits the design and creation of nonconforming structures, 211001 and or 211002, height and placement regulations for residential structures, and Chapter 2160 on required yards and setbacks and open space. The applicant appeals these requirements of the current zoning ordinance. Staff finds that applicant states that he proposes to raise, meaning demolish, an existing non-conforming 384 square foot accessory structure to construct a 672 square foot garage, non-compliant with required minimum setback and other ordinance regulations due to the location of utility facilities. This parcel, located in the R1 single-family residential district, is limited to 1 attached garage, 1 unattached garage greater than 200 square feet, and 1 storage structure less than or equal to 200 square feet per single-family dwelling. This parcel also has one boathouse on the property, lakeside. If placed within 10 feet of the main building, the proposed garage shall be its second attached garage. So the current owners appeal the requirements of the following zoning ordinance regulations. 21-1002-2D states that accessory buildings 200 square feet or greater, which are attached to or located within 10 feet of the main building, shall be considered part of the main building and shall comply with the same yard requirements as the main building. 21-1001, R1 single-family dwelling unit minimum required yard is 25 feet. The minimum required yard is 25 feet. In addition to a non-compliant rear, north, or street side setback, the proposed 14 feet is also not sufficient off-street parking length in front of the proposed garage doors, as any vehicle parked there will encroach into the public right-of-way and over the pedestrian walkway, which is required to be improved with a 4-foot wide concrete sidewalk. Per 21-1002-3C, a garage permitted after July 11th, 2008, which is entered perpendicular to an alley, shall not be located closer than 20 feet to the alley line. Rear yards, by the way, for homes located on lakefront property will be treated the same as an alley. There is sufficient buildable area on this property to construct a compliant unattached accessory structure or structures without variances. This board has the authority to require the fulfillment of any or all lacking boulevard infrastructure requirements in conjunction with any structural improvements authorized by building permit.
All right, thank you. Where would the garage be located if they put it on a, or didn't require a variance?
Oops. Okay, so this is the plot plan that was submitted by the applicant, and this is the 14-foot setback here to the rear property line, 4 feet from the house. He does meet side property line setbacks. This literally, maybe not the way they want it, but could be slid back. But it would still be the second attached garage, either way,
right,
within
yeah.
10 foot of the house. Yeah.
Right.
They would access the garage from the east, not from the street?
I believe
because of
they're,
that pole?
no, they're wanting to access, the door would be right here. And they're sliding it as close as they can or wish to the house in order to avoid that utility terminal and not come in from the east.
And only have like a single driveway?
We have a driveway here, and then they would need one here. Yep.
But like a single stall garage, a single stall driveway?
I think that they would have to speak to that.
Is the applicant here? I'll open up the public hearing. Please state your name.
Casey Schultz.
I'll maybe just add to, is typically for residential lots, we do just allow one access, one curb cut up to 36 feet max width.
There's some landscape requirements too that aren't being met here, evidently. Is it all? Oh, there's green space there. Were you planning on paving, putting concrete or blacktop in what is now green space?
I was going to blacktop just wide enough for the door.
But not blacktop around the utility easement or the utility?
No, I want to avoid the utilities.
Sorry, leave that grass around there?
Yes.
Okay.
What would be the landscaping requirements, Joe, for that? You'd need To do what?
The point is, basically Brandy's, he would be having, to put in more driveway space, which takes away from the boulevard green space. And, also, even though there probably is none in the area, each property is supposed to have sidewalk, and or trail at the lake. This property has none. That's typical. That's the landscape, the grass and the driveway and the sidewalk and the curb gutter. That, of course, is built to a rural road standard out at the lake. It doesn't have curb around there. Is that correct?
No, no curb. And there's a bike trail just across the street.
Right. So as far as the next door neighbors, this would not encroach any closer to the property line?
I'm Bill Raifenberger with Hometown Building Center. I was out there to look at this situation for him to do the garage, and just a couple comments. Currently, that garage that's there, the small building, he would be at the same distance away from the road, and I measured that, and from the edge of the road to the front of the current building was 25 foot 9 inches, just for reference. That and there is no sidewalk, so I'm talking from the front of the garage, current garage, which he's talking the same depth back. Also, the neighbor to the north, their garage is 21 foot 9. It's 4 feet further, closer to the road than his is currently. And then one of the other comments I might make is, a little bit unique in that stretch of North Lake Drive, that there's 11 houses on that setback road there. It's not even on the main road. You understand where that's at out there, or that Mark Hebb house is out on that stretch across there. So a little bit different in that sense. It's not in a traffic on that main road out there.
Right.
But then he's also got the issue of the utilities right there in front. So for him to get a boat in there, that's one of his problems. There currently is not a driveway on that other one, but there's some pavers on the front of that garage that come out about 4 or 5 feet. Some of that's not all green space now anyway. The garage is not in the best shape. It's sagging pretty bad on the one side, so obviously if he takes it down and can't put his thing back up, he's got that issue too. But he made the comment to me about one of the reasons not to push that back further. It becomes an issue with the neighbor blocking his view. If Jill had said, well, he could push that back further, which obviously makes for a longer drive to get back in there to try to back a boat in, but it also, he said that becomes an issue for blocking view for the neighbor. So,
View of the lake or the road for the neighbor?
The lake.
From that side, you can see where the windows are on the other guy's house to the right there. So if he pushes that back, you can obviously going to make some difference to that gentleman. But his garage to the right there is actually currently 4 feet closer to the road than what Casey's asking for here.
But it won't be any closer to the next door neighbor's property line. The new proposed garage.
Yes, it will.
Yeah, but it's still it's more than the 9 feet.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah.
So there isn't a sideism issue. It's a frontage, which it's basically replacing it the same distance that the current one is. Not asking to go further ahead than that, but does it make further difference? Though he needs to have at least some type of an approach to come in there. I don't know. I suppose it could be still made grass, but backing in there if it's muddy, that's going to be somewhat of an issue.
Now, the neighbor to the west, what you would be doing is moving closer to his garage?
Right.
Type of deal?
It's going to be larger than that.
Yeah, I understand that, but but the neighbor to the west, that you're going to be 9 feet from the lot line, it's up to his garage, not up to the house.
Right, yep.
Okay.
Currently in the position he's asking for it would be, if it was pushed to the lake further, then it becomes into the house side of his house, yes.
Jill, can you measure and see what his existing driveway curb cut is?
About 30 feet.
So if you expanded that 6 additional feet to the west, would you be able to make that one curb cut and still access that new garage?
That's where the utilities come in.
Oh.
The utilities are there to the left. Based on what Darwin's got drawn, he doesn't have a measurement of the curb cut, but he's got the garage at 24 feet, and it looks like the driveway on that plan is maybe a foot wider each way. He didn't label a measurement on that, but.
So, would you want to have just one big driveway instead of the original driveway and then a new driveway? That would be 2 driveways, or just have one driveway?
It would be 2 driveways.
It's pretty difficult to
You would
make that
have
one.
grass in
Driveway
between.
For the new garage.
It'd be pretty difficult to make that one. You wouldn't be able to turn into that garage.
No, what I'm saying is expand the existing driveway through in between like that grass area, and then still expand into the area where he wants to be and his new driveway, and just have one big driveway?
Well,
No,
that would
just
be
one
nice,
big
but I
curb
don't
cut.
need to do that.
Well,
I was just gonna have one single driveway, 12-foot wide, for the new garage.
Okay.
and that's where usually, like I had said before, that's where residential lots, we usually only allow one access up to 36 feet. So that's where it could be a condition of this variance if it were approved, that it be one access. And then you you still wouldn't be encroaching the utilities.
Right.
I think in total, he'd have about 36 foot, because if I can reference this, it looks like about 26, and if you had a 10-foot drive for the other, you have a total of 36, but to connect that all together, I don't think that would, then you take away green space then too by doing that. I don't know there would be a lot of purpose in tying that all together, but.
Jill, on our plot plan of the proposed, shows again, I'm gonna say it's a boathouse on that property. Is that, it looks like it's well within the property lines on the Darwin's, but then when we look at the GIS, it looks like the lot line goes right through the middle of it.
Yeah,
Are we-
the GIS is off.
So that becomes the third garage structure on this property.
Well, the boathouse isn't really considered as an unattached garage. It is literally called out in the ordinance as a conditional use, which it probably never went through, but it's been there for a long, long time. And it is a boathouse. This says garage on Darwin's plot plan, but it's a boathouse. It's taxed
Could
as
fit
a
a car in there. It's just storage. No, you can't. There's a big tree in front of it.
So there'd be 2 garages, but there currently are 2 garages, so it's a matter of replacing that one and making it larger.
All right. Any other questions for the gentleman? Is there anyone here to speak against this item? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you. Jill, did you receive any notification from any of the neighbors or anything?
Not on this, no.
Okay, good. Any other comments? We'll take a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion to approve building permit 20061.
Second?
I'll second.
All right. It was.
This is Todd.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I just want to make sure I understand everything. The proposed structure is not going to be any closer or nominally closer to the road than the existing structure, is that correct?
Yes.
But it's going to, and it's not going to be, and it's not going to infringe upon the side yard. It's only because it's bigger and closer to the house that makes it part of a second garage, correct?
The part where it's closer within 10 feet of the house makes it
Right.
considered a second garage, right?
Right. Are there any other locations that staff is aware of in town where a single-family residence has more than one driveway, or a circular driveway, or curb cuts?
The city engineer would actually prefer 2 curb cuts here just because of the green space requirement. And it's something that it is a different situation with the lake, and it's something that we'll look at in the Lake Residential District when we get there.
Could you restrict parking on the new driveway? I mean, if he's just using it just for boat storage or whatever, would that be something that we would want to consider?
Well, he still has 25 feet to the road, and there isn't a sidewalk.
Would there be, would the original maker of the motion want to consider amending their motion to include a waiver of right to protest curb and gutter if ever the city was to put it there?
Yes, I would be more than happy to do that. Thanks for the reminder.
Okay, so now we got to vote on the motion or the amendment?
No, I mean,
My understanding is if the original motion maker amends her own motion, no need to vote on the amendment.
Okay. Okay, that being said, we have a motion on the table. Any other discussion on it?
If I were to vote in favor of this, the only reason, for the record, the only reason that I would is that the garage is already existing there. I don't want to see a slew of people coming for this second garage. It seems like we set a precedence, and then pretty soon we're overloaded with everybody wanting double garages. That doesn't indicate which way I'm going to vote on this. I'm just indicating that should this pass, I just want us to be aware of the Pandora box.
Yeah, that's a
we
fair
open.
point. I was thinking the same thing, in fact.
I guess my thinking is if I was to move forward with a vote, one of the findings would be is that it still meets the side yard and it does not further encroach the existing situation as well.
Also true.
Agreed.
All right, any other discussion? Okay, looks like ready for vote. Joe, roll call.
Waletsky,
Yes.
Culhane,
Yes.
Kays,
Yes.
Dolly,
Yes.
Hanson,
No.
Stein,
Yes.
Dargits Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passed. Next item. Jim and Shelley Pieper, 20062.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
again, this is a similar, same property. When we conduct a public hearing, can we conduct it on both items at the same time?
Yeah, I'd love to do that. Yeah. So we're going to discuss 20062 and 20063. Same applicant. And same property. Go ahead, Joe.
This is a conditional use request with an appeal, and the owner applicant is Jim and Shelley Pieper. The property address will be 600 5th Street Southeast. The conditional use request is that the applicant seeks approval to develop a 2-story building in the C3 Highway Commercial District to be utilized as apartments over main floor commercial uses or offices, pursuant to 21-28026 office building with 21-28039 apartments. It's also contingent upon compliance with the purpose of the C3 Highway Commercial District and 21-0202 2B7A through H, specific rules governing individual conditional uses. Office building is a listed permitted use, and apartments is a listed conditional use for the C3 Highway Commercial District. The definition of office building is a room, set of rooms, or building where the business of a professional, commercial, industrial, financial, religious, institutional, public, or semi-public persons or organizations or broadcast stations and studios is conducted. And this is a proposed redevelopment project. As you can see on the GIS, there are 2 houses here right now. And the applicant did not address in their documents required screening from residentially used properties, screen dumpsters, lighting, or signage. The purpose of the C3 district is to establish appropriate locations along major streets and highways for highway and automobile-related retail and service establishments. And number 2, to permit development of highway service centers in the appropriate locations shown in the comprehensive land use plan. The off-street parking and loading requirements are regulated here, and per 1801-014, no motor vehicle or other vehicle of any kind, including trailers, whether motorized or non-motorized, shall be parked upon any boulevard at any time, unless permission therefore has been granted by an official city agency. No structure shall be built and occupied unless the minimum off-street parking and off-street spaces required by the provisions of this ordinance are provided. So then we go to Chapter 2173, Landscape and Lighting Standards, which for the boulevard and right-of-way requirements, the entire public right-of-way, excluding the street, shall be devoted entirely to grass and trees. There shall be a minimum 15-foot width of grass, and non-living ground cover, such as pavement, or including pavement, is supposed to be relegated to a minimum of 10%. So Title 24, subdivision of land, lot size requirements, the proposed area does not meet the C3 minimum of 20,000 square feet. It is 11,250 square feet. It also does not meet the width regulation of 100 feet. Its width as defined by ordinance is 75 feet. A replat or development lot agreement would be required in order to construct as proposed. And to move on to the variance side of things, the applicant required to construct a non-conforming 5,440 square foot 2-story building on a substandard 11,250 square foot parcel located in the C3 zone. It is to be constructed upon, again, the 11,250 square foot lot, 75 feet of width where 20,000 square feet of area is required, 100 feet of width. It is also proposed to be constructed 10 feet from the front north property line where a minimum 40 feet is required, and 25 feet from the front west property line where 40 feet is required, and 10 feet from the side east property line where a minimum 20 feet is required. It is deficient in minimum off-street parking requirements and deficient in boulevard public right-of-way landscaping requirements. So the application was denied based on 210302, which prohibits the design and creation of non-conforming structures and uses, 211003 height and placement regulations, Chapter 2160 required yards, open spaces, and setback regulations, and the applicant appeals those parts of the ordinance. Again, I'm not going to read verbatim 210302, which considers that no building structure or part thereof shall be built unless it meets the lot size requirements, area and width, the parking, minimum parking requirements, and other things required by ordinance such as landscape. I have one. I guess I should finish off with that for the conditional use part of things. Again, this board must determine if satisfactory provision and arrangement has been made concerning 210202 2B7A through H and the chapters and sections I just described. And if generally endorsed conditions of approval must be specified, There was one adjacent landowner that left a voicemail message with me, so I did not talk to him directly, but he is opposed to these kind of uses in this area. Generally, he did not go into a lot of specific detail.
Which property owner was it that had the?
Jim Silliman. Or
where's his house at? It's not the one where the L shape is. It's not in the middle of that, right?
No, I think it is. Is it?
Yeah, Jim doesn't live right there, I don't believe.
No, I think he's the owner of the Midwest Office Supplies, Midwest Medical Building, something like that. Not sure which one that is. Here, this one? Yep.
All right.
Mr. Chair, this is Todd.
You.
Just to fully disclose, prior to the applicant making an application on this request, I did have a conversation with him. He had talked to me one day about development along Highway 81 and where I thought things were going, just as a planner and somebody that's been around for a while. I knew a little bit about what he was proposing to do here. I just want everyone to know that I don't think it has predisposed me one way or the other, but if the board does not want me to act on this, I leave it at their druthers.
Can you act objectively on this matter?
I believe I can.
Then you're fine. All right, anybody have any questions for Joe? Is the applicant here, or a representative of the applicant? Sure, come on up. Open to public comment, and anybody to speak on behalf or against will have their opportunity to do so. So, please.
I'm Ronnie Rosh, and I own that house that's 516 there with that whole lot. But that area of the town is in a flood zone. The property where the medical supply, the bank, and that strip mall in the front has all been filled up about 3 foot above. There was 3 or 4, there was 4 houses that are in that corner. So therefore, when we get heavy rains, the water runs down that alley and then down between our houses. And it has gotten clear up to my basement windows. But it hasn't went down that in the basement yet. But he's going to have to, in order to get out of the flood zone, he's going to have to raise that about 2 to 3 feet, that property. So therefore, the water all runs to the east there. And there is a small gutter down between the medical supply and my fence and that other house, but it doesn't handle all of the water that comes down that alley, and that's just a dirt alley, and there are a lot of heavy-duty trucks that haul oxygen and that to the medical supply. There's a lot of traffic down that single-lane alley, which is nothing but dirt, and I don't know where he's going to park or where he has any plans of making a parking lot, but there's going to be, the only access would be down that alley or through the south side of the medical supply building. So I'm really kind of, in a hard spot there. Unless they can make a suitable drain to get rid of the water that can or could possibly come down there. So,
right. Thank you. Anyone else here to speak on behalf or against this item?
Hi, my name's Jim Pieper, and I'm the guy proposing to do this. And the reason we want to do this is we currently have 2 structures on there now. We want to take those off, and then we want to put in a,
Jim, closer.
oh, sorry. We want to put in a commercial building with commercial on the bottom and then residential on the top. And we want to take those structures out of there so that we can raise it above the flood zone to take it out of the flood zone.
Okay, could you speak to Mr. Rosh's concern as far as the drainage and the water flow?
Well, I would think that would be part of dealing with the city, because, you know, we don't want to be a bad neighbor. We don't want to give you our water. You know, that that is certainly not our intent. But we would sure work with the city on, you know, whatever we need to do there to take care of that.
With limited parking spaces, you feel that's going to be adequate for the purposes of what you're going to be doing on this property?
Well, we have 13 planned on there.
We do see we see an issue with the parking on the north side of the building adjacent to 6th Avenue there, where that angled parking will come off. It looks like it's about 10 feet off of Highway 81, which I think currently it's about 20 feet. And so we would like to see that not be expanded more than what it is currently today. So if you look at the GIS and if you can measure what the current parking is on the north side.
Yeah, that would be our plan, is just to keep that the same. And then we
But
would
if it is closer than 10, can we measure that?
It looks like, Jim, on the site plan, you've expanded it. It looks like it's expanded a bit, like 2 spaces. This is about 52, 53 feet here. And according to yours, it looks like about 60 to 65.
Well, so no, from the westerly part of that parking, no. From the green space, so Highway 81, from the curb of there to the parking where that white SUV is.
Right here, right there.
No, all the way to the west.
All the way to the west.
No, but like.
Like
Right
here
there.
to
There
here?
you go.
Okay, I'm sorry. All right, so let me do that again. So here's the west edge of the concrete to the property line or to the curb?
To the curb.
Curb.
Because it's
It's
there.
36. To the property line, it's 22.
Well, okay, that's more accurate. So that's where I was getting off my measurements from we use First District's GIS, so got about 20. So as long as you're not encroaching further into the setback to 81, so basically just keep it as it is today,
Okay.
but no making it smaller, because on the site plan it looks like it's about 10 feet, and that would be even non-compliant with our Clearview triangle, and then would make issues for people pulling out when they're parking and
Sure.
maybe going into the intersection, causing ruckus there.
We don't want to cause any ruckus.
So Jill, for clarification, we kind of beat up Mr. Landsberger earlier this evening on that boulevard parking, and now what's this?
According to my conversations with the building official, this parking, and going back on GIS views, as it exists here now, not on the site plan expanded, but it has been here for forever, since we can't go back far enough on the GIS pictures to see where it did not exist. So we don't know whether there was actually ever formal approval, but unlike some of the other ones, like the Landsberger parking to the east, or excuse me, to the west, that one had expanded through time. This one has just been here for we don't know how long.
And so basically, too, if you look back on your other applications tonight, the Four Holdings issue, that was the same situation as this, where it had existed, and that there's no way to bring it into compliance no matter what, for what this lot area is. And then for Landsberger, they he had sufficient space and that boulevard parking didn't exist today, so we won't want to create a larger nonconformity, which is what we would be doing too if he wouldn't be encroaching further to 81 and just leaving it as it exists today.
So Jim would be losing like 2 of the parking lots, proposed parking lots, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And what's the math on how many parking spots he needs?
He needs 13 off-street parking spaces. He shows 7, but, or excuse me, am I on the right one here? He needs 13, and according to this site plan, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He's got 13 less these 2 here that we talked about.
I think it might just be less 1.
Less 1?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So he's got 14, looks like.
Okay, and Jim, would you propose, because like the neighbor was saying, that's just a gravel alley, would you propose like doing like a pavement or anything on that alley? Because you're going to have pavement in your driveway, right?
Correct.
Okay, and that's the only way they're going to access is off the alley, correct?
No. It'll actually, we went and talked to the state, and we got a email from the state saying that there's actually, there's a curb cut there now with a access from 81. So then we can access right from the front, and we can, you know, exit there as well. And the state was fine with it. They didn't see any problem with that. They just kind of had redone that not that long ago, and they were just, yeah, they didn't see any issue there at all.
Jim, what's the proposal again? Will there be access off the alley, or will that be fenced or curbed, or what's the plan?
No, we would still like to exit there if need be. Right now, there's a lot of just hard surface, not on the alley, but a lot of that commercial building in behind us there is all concrete. So we would like to have, you know, hard surface on our parking lot as well.
A hard surface parking lot with a gravel alley access to it?
Well, we would like to use, coming off from 81, we'd like to use that. That would be hard surface coming in. And then if they would like to go out through the alley, they could, but they could certainly go back out along 81 as well, exiting.
This is Todd. Jill or staff, when we did the
Creststones.
the hotel remodel into apartments just to the south of this, didn't we put some sort of recommendation or stipulation on them that if and when development warranted, we would consider requiring the pavement of that entire alley?
I believe I'm not sure exactly if it was them, but we have done that in the past. We have required improvements of alley in order to build, and we have done waivers.
Well, I just thought my recollection was when they got the permit to revamp those, you know, they have to use the alley as the main entrance, and because they can only exit out to the south in that development. And I thought the recollection was that there was something stated that they would sign a waiver, a right to protest, to allow the city or to require pavement at some point in time. So the question then would be is if this development, if that would trigger that, would that be sufficient enough?
This is Eric Scott. I happen to be here for another item, but I do recall, I believe we signed a waiver of right to protest if the city should decide that that alley should be paved.
Would the applicant, Jim, would you be objectionable to that as a requirement, as a condition to the permit?
Well, would I be responsible to pay that, pave the whole alley then? Is that what you're saying, Todd?
Well, at least the part that fronts your property.
You know, I could see doing my own. I don't know that I would want to do the neighbors.
Especially because how it's a different situation here between Eric's project and Jim's is that Eric's was a one-way. So they didn't have the option to go out that same driveway, but Jim does have sufficient, they could pull in and then go back out his paved driveway.
I'm not an engineer, but is there enough turning radius with the parking spaces if they come in and do that? So they can enter and exit out onto the highway from the parking lot?
Well,
or is it going to be path of least resistance is just to go down the alley?
It's 90-degree parking, so hopefully they have enough space to get out either way. So it's going to be the same situation, either if they're going out the alley or back out the driveway.
I find the situation to be nearly identical because they had the apartment remodel had a driveway, and we made them just be an exit only onto that.
Because it was too narrow.
Too narrow?
So he has a parking area where somebody can pull in and then back out and go back out the driveway. But in Eric's, it was diagonal parking. This is 90 degree.
Okay.
I guess, sorry.
Go ahead.
My issue with that is you are, along with the other apartment building that we did allow, and we did, I'm almost positive we asked Eric to do that. And just like the gentleman said who lives in that neighborhood, the trucks come down that. I don't know if we're going to have to go to everybody and say we need to pave that, but with that much added traffic to that poor dirt alley, you're not doing anybody any favors to the east of that. He's going to have a slop mess right next to his, his fence or whatever. I mean, it's going to get rutted with that kind of traffic through there.
I guess when I look at it from that parking spot, that spot farthest to the east would have a hard time to maneuver out to get back on 81. I think you either need to build a curb or a fence to prevent them from going through the alley, or, sign the waiver to protest to improve the alley.
Would we need to have a fence on the north side of the parking lot on the east side of the building into the backyard of that house to the east? Is that a requirement?
Is that a city requirement, Jill, to have a fenced parking?
Yeah, well, he has shown no screening. That was one of the things that were lacking on this submittal. We don't see any screening here. Do you propose any, Jim?
Yeah, if it's required, we would do the screening.
It is required.
It is required,
Yep,
yeah.
and we would certainly do that. Yep, we actually asked the neighbor to, and it sounded like they did want it to the south, so we would have no problem doing that.
Yeah, so it's in 217304 where there has to be a parking lot buffer for residentially used property, which is 5 feet. Is that shown? No, I picked all my papers up. And then also for the parking lot screening, that adequate screening of a parking lot from adjacent residential use properties shall be provided, or residential use properties across the right-of-way from a parking area. It just goes on. So then screening shall be an opaque fence, wall, berm, or hedge maintained at least 4 feet in height and in such a manner not to materially impede vision of at intersecting streets, alleys, and driveways.
Jim, if you had your druthers, would you build a fence, or would you like to use live plantings as a screening mechanism?
I think we would probably need to do the fence, just because, we're pretty close to the neighbors over there, and I think that was what they had requested, so I'd want to do what they would want us to do.
All right, thank you.
I guess another question I have on this property is for garbage waste disposal. Would it be a dumpster? Would they have blue cans? And I guess there again, are they going to come in off 81? Are they going to have garbage on Sixth Avenue, how would that be addressed?
Screening of the garbage receptacles.
Oh, well, we would put that on site as well, you know, wherever, I guess the city, once we start working with them, where that would need to be put, we would put that. We have no problem with that as well.
So then they would probably have to come in off of 81 because you wouldn't want it in the front of your building.
That would be my guess, is that they would just come along on, off from 81 and then pick it up in the back and then exit out the alley, or?
I have a request for comment.
This is Eric Scott again, and as owner of not an adjacent property, but a property in the proximity, and maybe even more so as just a Watertown citizen, I think this would be a great use for this area. Would really upgrade. Highway 81 is kind of weird because it's still transitioning very, very slowly from commercial or from residential into more commercial uses, and I think this would really improve what our highway looks like. That area has seen some improvement. I think 612 Flats was an upgrade to the aesthetics. They did something really nice with the building across the street and turned that into a really nice looking building. And I think this would just help us continue to increase the aesthetics and the proper use of that neighborhood. I also, just having known Jim for a long time, know that he's going to be respectful of his neighbors and make sure he does the right thing to make sure he's not causing somebody else a problem. So, you know, I'd love to see this happen, and if it does, well, I guess you're already there, so welcome to the neighborhood, Jim.
Thank you, Eric.
I agree with what Eric said. I've seen Jim and Shelley's properties before, and they all have been very well maintained.
Thank you, Bonnie. I appreciate that.
Alrighty. Any other questions or comments? Anyone else here to speak on behalf or against this item? Now to close the public hearing, ask for a motion. You gonna combine these two then?
I think you're gonna have to have separate actions on these, Mr. Chair, I believe. And perhaps maybe the first one would be to handle the conditional use to see whether or not this is the appropriate use of the land, and then if we figure that it's appropriate from the use, we can then address the some of the variance issues maybe.
All right, fair enough.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the conditional use permit 20062.
Second.
Any other discussion?
I would like to make an alternate motion or ask the originator of the motion to consider the following as a friendly amendment. One, that the applicant will work with staff on screening the residences from the parking lot. Not saying it has to be a fence or plantings, whatever the applicant wants to do, but it needs to meet that requirement. Two, I'd also like to ask the maker of the motion to amend to require the applicant to sign a waiver of right to protest the construction of their pro rata share of the alley if and when the city initiates that action.
Yes, I would like to make those amendments. Thank you.
I'll renew my second.
All right, any other further discussion? If not, take a vote.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Colleen?
Yes.
Kays?
Yes.
Stein?
Yep. Yes.
Dolly?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes.
Dargis Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve variance 20063 from the minimum lot area and width requirements, the front and side yard setback requirements. I'm not sure, do we want to have trees on the west side or not? I'm not sure that'd be something we could make an amendment. I'm not gonna, go at the variance from the tree requirement. A variance from the infrastructure requirements, except, the curb and gutter, I would like to say a, waiver right to protest. And then if the parking, he doesn't look like he needs a variance from the parking if he utilizes the site plan. So moved.
I was gonna ask you to repeat it, but that was just a joke. Second?
All right, motion and second on the table. Any discussion?
Well, my only concern would be, and again, that'll be something when you guys address with staff, what he's gonna have once good point on the garbage. I'm assuming that's gonna be in the alley. You may lose a spot. And then whatever Brandy is talking about for the front, for the clear view triangle up there, whatever amount of space we lose there, it just may affect how many apartments you get. That's all I'm kind of, or apartments or commercial space, right? We're all in agreement on that. I mean, because if you're gonna want a variance from that, you'll be back up here. So I'm just saying, just forewarning you that may happen once you figure out where your garbage and what that clear view triangle is gonna create for space. You know what I'm saying, Jim?
Yeah.
So, okay. So your apartments may change numbers or your building may change space is all I'm getting at maybe. So just forewarning, just pointing that out. Other than that.
All right, thank you. Ready to vote?
All right, Kays,
Yes.
Culhane,
Yes.
Letsky,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Dargis Johnson,
Yes.
Dolly.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right,
Yep.
thank you. Next item, any open public comment? Seeing none, any old business, Joe?
No.
Take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We're moved.
Motion, Mr. Chair, can we have a